Hello, and welcome to this online learning session presented by the Oregon Department of Education. My name is Jeff Rhodes, Arts Information Communication Education Specialist at the Oregon Department of Education. Today, I'd like to talk about locally developed student leadership in Oregon career and technical education programs of study. One of the lesser known facts that we have in the education world is the power of student leadership opportunities for delivering CTE experiences to students. Our team at ODE has now made it one of the important considerations as we approve CTE program of study applications. Why has ODE determined that student leadership should be a part of each CTE program of study? Take a minute to consider your answer to the question on the screen. What is there about student leadership that has made it nationally a big part of CTE expectations? CTE itself is about preparing students for their next step, whether that is in education as a learner, going directly into the workforce as a producer, or any of the other life roles identified by the Oregon State Board of Education as the purpose of public education. But the benefit specifically for each CTE student is the opportunity to learn in an applied context where what the student is learning makes sense, is relevant, and will be retained for much longer than content learned through rote learning exercises. It helps students bridge the academic content of school to their life in the real world. Career technical student leadership chapters, although they are not clubs, give students a place for belonging and teachers a way to network within the context of their career pathway. Student leadership provides opportunities for students to engage in meaningful interactions with professionals and practitioners in their career pathway. While there isn't a specific standalone federal definition for career and technical student leadership, the concept is largely understood through the term Career and Technical Student Organization, or CTSO, which in Oregon refers to the 8 student groups within career and technical education programs, chartered by the State Board of Education. These organizations inherently encompass leadership development as a key component of their activities. This is recognized and supported by federal legislation related to CTE programs, i.e. the Carl D. Perkins Grant. There are 3 expectations for student leadership opportunities in Oregon programs of study. 1, delivering mechanisms for career area content tied to skill sets. 2, community connected, including work-based learning, project-based learning, and more. 3, enterprise management and membership. Member-leader meeting process. We feel very strongly that student leadership is a tool in a CTE program of study. But like any tool, it needs to be used correctly to have the most value for the student as well as for the instructor. So how does a teacher show ODE what student leadership opportunities they have chosen to be a part of their program of study? When a school applies for approval for a CTE program of study or renews a previously approved CTE program of study, they submit that application through the CTE Information System database. That application interface collects all the information ODE needs in order to approve the CTE program of study, including school, district, and region information, career area, career cluster, focus area, zip codes, work-based learning, and industry-recognized credential information, teacher licensure information, and student leadership information. The student leadership information is initially given through a pull-down menu that lists all the state board recognized CTSOs. As we begin gathering input on student leadership opportunities for CTE programs of study, we have heard from some programs that they had chosen to provide student leadership experiences through locally developed opportunities instead of using a recognized career and technical student organization. But they didn't have a way to show that in the CTE IS application. To support this flexibility, we added an option to the student leadership opportunity menu, locally developed student leadership. It was planned that when selecting this option, teachers would provide additional details in the Student Support Services comment box on how their approach supports student leadership expectations. This allows each CTE program of study to tailor student leadership opportunities in ways that best meet their student needs and goals while balancing local realities. For applications that select locally developed student leadership opportunities, it is important that those three expectations are explained in the Student Support Services comment box. In this example, the teacher does address the first element of content, instruction, and evaluation, but the comments do not address how the students will interact with the community, nor how the students will have opportunities to participate in an organization as members, administrators, and especially as leaders. It is just not enough to show that there is competition linked to the program. For some time now, ODE has had a list of the expectations we have for student leadership experiences in a CTE program of study, whether that is through a CTSO or through a locally developed set of student experiences. The QR code you see takes you to the ODE student leadership page, and the link takes you to the actual document that lists those expectations. This is what that list of expectations looks like. And you will note that it is constructed around those three major expectations. So, when applying to ODE to have a CTE program of study, a teacher has to decide whether they will have a state-recognized CTSO as listed, or if they will have a locally developed student leadership opportunity. Both options require the teacher to help students realize all of the expectations listed on that document. It is easier to start with one of the already operating CTSOs aligned with the career cluster. Currently, there are 8 board-recognized CTSOs in Oregon. But for some clusters, like arts, AV technology and communications, or hospitality tourism, there are not any CTSOs that really work. Even in those clusters that do have a board-recognized CTSO available, as mentioned earlier, for one reason or another, a teacher of record may not or cannot offer a home for that CTSO. So the decision needs to be made to develop a local student leadership opportunity. Bottom line, if you want to offer a locally developed student leadership opportunity for your students, you must meet the same 3 expectations we have for chapters of any of the 8 board-recognized CTSOs. The opportunity needs to be tied to the curriculum. This is based on the skill sets for the CTE program of study. The students must have opportunities to connect with the community and industry practitioners. And students need instruction and practice in belonging as members, administrators, and leaders in an organization. What is the leadership continuum within the CTE program of study as it relates to the leadership needs of the career learning area? When we say tied to curriculum, we mean that student experiences are a source of curriculum delivery and assessment of the acquisition of knowledge and skills identified in the skill set. Students need to have the opportunity to learn by doing, then have multiple opportunities to demonstrate that knowledge and skill. This can be done, for example, through school-based enterprises or other work-based learning experiences. These experiences may even lead to acquisition by the student of an industry-recognized credential. There are many ways a teacher or advisor can turn student leadership opportunities into student interaction with local business and industry partners, including through students engaging with speakers, mentors, internships, service learning, or other community projects. And those projects should be done in partnership with the community, with community partners helping students to identify community need, find community contacts, prepare and disseminate communications, and ultimately judge or otherwise evaluate those projects. Teachers should involve students and industry partners in the design and implementation of the learning opportunities in the program of study. One of the major opportunities for students involves being a member of an organization or making decisions about how an organization functions, or leading and guiding that organization, or leading and guiding projects that are part of the organization's plan of work. CTSOs and the locally developed student leadership opportunities fill that need for students. Student leadership often provides an opportunity for students to network. It also may be the only exposure students have to structured organization experiences, like how to design and follow an agenda, how to use rules of order to run meetings, for example, parliamentary procedure, and how to practice basic fiduciary functions. It should be noted here that Senate Bill 3 included a half-credit graduation requirement in higher education and career pathway planning, and a half-credit graduation requirement in personal financial education for students graduating in 2027 and beyond. The expectations of student leadership experiences is a perfect place to help with the education and career pathway planning, but to also teach some of those basic financial concepts, including financial rules and laws regarding organizational finances, how supply and demand works, elementary principles of cash flow, how basic microeconomics work, and how to make ethical decisions regarding finances. So, coming back to the CTE information system and your CTE program of study application, or your CTE program of study update. Student leadership is one of the principal pieces of a CTE program of study. Selecting a CTSO is one way to identify how you intend to go about meeting that student leadership expectation. But whether you select one of the board-recognized CTSOs or locally developed student leadership, you have the opportunity to take your students to the next level by providing a student leadership experience that meets all the criteria listed in the one-pager found on our website. But choosing locally developed student leadership requires you share with us your plans to meet that criteria, and you would do that in the Student Support Services comment box. But let's look at some of the responses we have had to date. If you were an education program specialist at ODE, would you approve this comment on how this CTE program of study intends to meet the student leadership expectations outlined on the one-pager? Does it list how it will meet the three major elements of student leadership? How about this one? It's better, but does it clearly illustrate how the three major expectations will be met? How about this one? It talks about leadership roles and a mention of some community involvement, but for all students? There will be lots of teacher assistance, but how extensive will the community engagement be? How about organizational opportunities for all students to be members, administrators, or leaders? This response might get approved for now, but there might be some suggestions from the ODE specialist regarding how to bolster the community involvement and how the teacher might address the missing organization piece. To make sure your application or your update sails through the approval process, make sure you talk about how your CTE program of study will provide students all three parts of student leadership expectations. 1, tied to curriculum. 2, connected to community. And 3, opportunities to participate in organizational process. This entry may not be very detailed, but the meat of what the teacher is providing is very clear here. These are resources that will help you flesh out your plans for using student leadership in your CTE program of study. Whether you select one of the board-recognized CTSOs or you design something geared for yours and your students' local needs. These links are current as of today, and the last link will take you to a version of this slide deck, including the talking points. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. If you have any questions involving locally developed student leadership in CTE programs of study, please reach out to Ron Dodge at ode.oregon.gov.